Eve. Eve was another case I would like to record and remember. Most cases are short and have no unusual situations happening. But sometimes special and memorable things happen, as with Eve. She was a single woman at 50-something, very quiet and reserved. Her abdominal cancer had progressed to stage 4 with a large protruding tumor that distressed Eve greatly. She tried to hide it somewhat by having a pillow under her blanket. We did develop a good conversational relationship, during which she told me she had not found one man who interested her enough to consider marriage. They all seemed so occupied with self. I had to agree with Eve that is true in so many cases. After a few nights, she asked me about my marriage and my wife. I told her about my beloved and the solid, selfless person she was, making our union so close and special. She kindly said, "I think you would make a nice husband." The following night she asked me what I believed about God. I thought, "Here we go again, Bernie. Think carefully what you will say." I turned the question back to Eve, asking what she felt or knew about God. She then related how she had gone to church all her life until a couple years ago. With gentle probing, she told me she had a secret crush on her last pastor, who had run off with the church secretary. She had not been to church since. The following night, Eve had declined so much. I was so sad for her that I automatically reached for her hand and sat close by to talk with her. I said, "You are allowing another selfish man to separate you from a loving God who loves you more than you can imagine." Eve said no one has ever loved her, and I was the only man who ever held her hand. She dropped off into a labored sleep, obviously failing so badly. The next night when I came in, I could see it was only hours now, and I felt such a sense of loss for this sweet lady. When the nurses left after turning Eve, they left her laying flat, and she was having great difficulty breathing. I lifted the top of the bed back up and bent low to talk with her. Eve told me I was right about letting a man separate me from God, and I know he will forgive me. Impulsively, I bent down and kissed her forehead and held her hand. She whispered, "No man has ever kissed me before. What would your wife think?" I said, "Jackie would kiss you also and hold you." She struggled hard to say, "I could love you, Bernie." This macho old man could not reply, only weep. After a few minutes, Eve said, "I feel so completely loved, like I never have before, but I must go now." Eve sighed and closed her eyes, and I lost another new friend. I don't know how to describe the loss I felt. I have lost many, many patients, but I am finding it harder to accept or put on a mental shelf. It might be time for me to scale back on hospice, because these kind of losses leave me emotionally destitute and drained.